30 plus years ago, a journey began. And that journey was to discover smart ways to build wealth fast. Now, today I will share with you some of what I have discovered on this journey. What I've learned is that there are multiple approaches that one can use to position oneself to build wealth and to build wealth fast. For example, you can position yourself to become a real estate investor. You can position yourself to become a publicist, or you can position yourself to get involved in commerce and trade, specifically looking at FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. Now, today, I will examine each of these concepts, showing you the potential of each of these business platforms to generate income and to also cash flow fast. But just before I get into that examination, I want to point out to you 5 steps that you want to learn, apply, and master, regardless of which field you're looking at to position yourself or to leverage to build wealth. Now, any attempt to start focusing on building wealth, step one, you want to invest as much time as possible to identify the ideal client. Now, it is the ability to identify your ideal client based on demographic data, psychographic data, and geographic data is going to help you to make better, smarter, wiser decisions. You see, from the time you identify your ideal client, you're also able to assess your market size. You're able to assess precisely where to find the ideal client. And there's so much more that you are able to garner. And that in of itself helps you to make, again, better, smarter, wiser business decision. In getting into business, you want to take the speculation out of the equation because it is the speculation that is going to cause you to become frustrated, have sleepless nights, and perhaps lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in your investment portfolio because you're speculating. So step one is to commit as much time as possible to identify your ideal client. Perhaps you might be looking at the affluent in society, the middle class, or what I may call the rising stars. Now, step two, you want to invest as much time as possible to not only identify the ideal client, but step two is to identify the specific needs of the ideal client. You see, very often you get into business from an emotional standpoint. Yes, you want to build wealth, and there's nothing wrong with building wealth, but you want to approach this in the right way. You want to commit the time, talent, and resources to identify the specific needs of the ideal client. It is this body of knowledge that is going to help you to be more relevant in the supply of products and services to your ideal client now that you understand the specific needs. Now, step three, you also want to invest time to understand if the client has the ability to pay. You see, ever so often, you innovate products, you provide services with the expectation or the anticipation that the ideal client has the ability to pay. Now, because you didn't do all of the stress testing, you didn't know if that is the ideal client. You didn't know that client has the ability to pay. So you invest your time, you invest your talent, you invest your resources, only to recognize that the ideal client cannot pay. Can you imagine that you invest in time to build a luxury family unit, only to recognize that the location that you build it in the first place is not conducive to the ideal client, and the ideal client is not motivated to come to that location, or it is built in a community where there's heavy demand, but then although there's heavy demand, the ideal client cannot reach their financial obligation. That is a recipe for disaster. So it's important to take your time to truly understand these steps. All right. Now, step 4 is once you're able to identify the ideal client and to be certain that the market is big enough to represent a viable market, you can now come to step 2, which is to identify specific needs. Step 3, ensure that the ideal client has the ability to pay. Now, once you're able to cover all of this, all right, beyond speculation, beyond guesstimation, beyond assumption, but now represent this as data, you can now start your business. So whether you're starting a business as a real estate investor, you start in a business as, a publicist, you start in a business in FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, these are information that you need to have before you get started. Now, once you get started, you have to break through the noise. You have to break through the know, like, and trust. And here is where we talk about investing in brand visibility. Now, brand visibility represents a whole lot. For example, at Global Capital Inc., we talk a lot about the CCL, the client conversion ladder, because in the absence of knowing what this is, in the absence of applying this body of knowledge to enhance your visibility to the point where you're known, you're liked, and you're trusted, the inability to do this is going to undermine the ability of that business to cash flow. So you have to be able to invest in brand visibility. Now, I'm just going to give you some hints here. This represents your ability to leverage mass media, and mass media means radio, television, and newspaper, and also your ability to leverage social media. Now, we have a plethora of social media platforms that you can use. But what about independent communication channels that you can also use to build a healthy, productive relationship with the ideal client and up level that to achieve the business objective? Now, the CCL, the client conversion ladder, will help you to understand all of this step by step. All right. And it is the ability to have this body of knowledge. So whether you're investing, you're planning to start your business in real estate, you're planning to start your business as a publicist, you're planning to start your business in fast moving consumer goods. This body of knowledge is what's going to help you to move faster and enable you to build wealth much faster. Now, as promised, let us examine each of the areas in which you can start your business and position yourself to build wealth. Let's begin by looking at real estate investment. So one of the first things that you can look at here is perhaps starting a 20-unit family complex. Now, let us suppose that each of the family unit, now you have 20, is being offered to the market at $3,000. That simply means that at the end of every month, you're generating $60,000. And by the end of the year, you're generating 720,000 USD. But this is not the icing on the cake. You see, with real estate investment, you have annual appreciation that is taking place, which means that the value of the estate is going up. All right. Now, because you have equity appreciation that is taking place, you also have equity leverage. And equity leverage means that you can take out a HELOC, which might be, this is referred to as the home equity line of credit, or a BLOC, a business equity line of credit. Now, the ability to do this means that you have cash flow, you have capital leverage, and in having capital leverage, you have an opportunity to increase your investment portfolio, which now will increase the cash flow of your business. And that is taking you one step closer to your wealth building journey. So that's one example. Now let's look at the second example. Let's look at the publicist. Now, let us suppose that you are thinking along the line as a publicist and you identify your ideal client as the affluent in society who have a message to share and they need the publicity. They want that know, like, and trust. So you target a specific group here. Your focus is to perhaps produce 20 books per annum. All right. And you're charging, let us say, approximately $100,000 for this exercise. This may represent the writing of the book, the printing of the book, the publishing of the book, the national tours with the book, and you're generating perhaps $100,000 here. Now, when we multiply this by 20, it means at the end of the year you are generating $2 million. Now, the beauty about your role as a publicist, if you're thinking outside of the box, you are setting the stage to not only generate income from the sales of book, but what about lectures? Lecture can bring in massive amounts of money. What about starting specific courses based on that book? That can bring in a lot of money. Well, let's take, for example, you're working with subject matter expert that understand credit management and can write, given the public information on how to better manage their credit. In America, you have hundreds of millions of people who are trapped with credit card debt and they don't have a clue how to navigate it. What if you write a book on this? What if you develop courses on this? I can assure you the public will be willing to pay for that. So the book in of itself can create multiple streams of income. So what I've looked at here is only one stream of income, and that's from the sales of book. The income from training, the income from lectures, and the income from all these things can significantly exceed the income from the sales of book. Again, this will set the stage for your wealth building journey to be realized much faster. So here is where you have a business opportunity that has the potential to generate in excess of $2 million. And it is there for your taking. But I must say this is not for everyone. All right. For this to work, you must be able to identify your ideal clients. You must be able to identify their specific needs. You must be able to assess if they have the ability to pay and so much more before you start that business initiative. And then you have to be able to either leverage the right approaches to get into the know, like, and trust, or ensure that you're visible to the right people, enhancing the brand visibility. In the absence of this, you might be able to do all of the above, but in the absence of visibility, in the absence of know, like, and trust, that vision can be significantly compromised. So you want to ensure that you're following this principle to position yourself to build wealth and to build wealth fast. The last concept that I'm going to share with you is wholesaling, commerce and trade. Now, you want to get into commerce and trade. You want to target FMCG, businesses that are dealing with fast-moving consumer goods. So your ultimate play here is to identify 100 wholesalers that can perhaps invest 100 Ks with you on a monthly basis, 100 Ks USD on a monthly basis. Now, the ability to achieve this means that that business can generate perhaps 10 million USD per month and $120 million annually. Now, let's talk about the possibility of these three platforms to build wealth. Now, what I've done, I've given you possibilities. It is important now that you put yourself in the position of strength to harness the vision, to harness the wisdom, to harness the resources, to harness the processes, to harness the leadership abilities and the systems that will enable you to go after this. Now, I trust that you had some nuggets to take away from today's short podcast on 5 steps to build wealth and to build wealth fast. I want to assure you that when you come into our community, we're going to go deeper into these analyses to ensure that you are in that position of strength to make highly informed and highly educated business decision. Remember, as you set yourself up to build wealth, you want to get the speculation out of the way. You want to get the guesstimation out of the way. You want to get the assumption out of the way. And you want to invest in collecting data, analyzing data, applying data, and mitigating data in a way that is going to position you to achieve your business financial objectives and to achieve them fast. My name is Gary Thompson. It has been a pleasure being with you. Remember to like, subscribe, and share so you will be the first to get these content that we are bringing to you on a regular basis. Be blessed and see you soon.